So we back with another reaction. We checking out Trap University, the scary side of Las Vegas, man. You know I'm out here, so I want to see what he talking about. What's going on, bro?
Dollars from a
Politicians
charity
and
so she
shit.
could pay for plastic surgery and her daughter's wedding. I thought this video would go in a completely different direction. That is, until I found a double homicide tied to sex trafficking that was never solved, which led to the death of one of the victim's mother and the death of a judge who got too invested into the case and even accused detectives in the Las Vegas Police Vice Unit of working with sex traffickers to take out their competition and covering their tracks. Many of you already know this, but the Las Vegas Strip actually lies almost completely within a town called
Sound like some Epstein shit. I ain't gonna hold you, bro. Somebody who I know hit me up the other day and told me that somebody tried to kidnap them and traffic them. Gave them tried to drug them on the strip and get them up out of there. This little female I know, she had told me that she good though, but it's happening, folks.
Paradise.
It's
Because
happening,
after the
folks.
Jewish and Italian mafia started taking over casinos, they lobbied for the mayor of Las Vegas to not annex the area into the city, which must have been some pretty
I gotta hit this donkey, folks.
scary lobbying for Las Vegas to give up on taking the Las Vegas Strip. Fremont Street is part of the city, however. Now, it should be no secret that human trafficking is big in the state of
Stop playing, bro. You see that White Castle's on the Fremont Strip? You see that White Castle's, bro? That's Midwest, gang. I've been out here in Vegas for about 10 years. Between 5 to 10, probably more than that. Boy, they ain't had no White Castles out there, boy. They don't know nothing about that, folks. But let's get back into the video.
Nevada. With prostitution being legal in some counties, some of these brothels have for years featured trafficked women and children blending in due to collusion between traffickers and brothel owners. But the disturbing case I found starts in 2015. Melanie Andres Tobiasen, a Las Vegas judge, is worried about her teenage daughter's new job, and what she found is even backed up in court documents. Her daughter started to work at a clothing store called Top Notch. The judge became worried that the store was only a front for a prostitution ring, and after staking out at the location for some time, she claimed that the store turned into a club at night. And at night, she observed high school girls hanging out and dancing at this club, sometimes on stripper poles. She recorded license plate numbers and followed cars leaving the club at night to see where they were going. And she even claimed that daughters of judges and law enforcement officers were being targeted by pimps.
Yo, hold on 1 second. I want to take a minute to show y'all my merchandise. If you see anything you like, go ahead and get you some. You'll be out there looking fly, looking fresh. I'm going to leave a link in the description.
She handed this information over to the police, but ended up being frustrated with the lack of action. And this is when she made the claim that some detectives were working with pimps and even receiving favors from prostitutes. And little did she know, the FBI was already investigating the Vice Unit for exactly what she'd accused them of. But part of the reason this judge would eventually get in trouble was how far she took her personal investigation. After noticing that the police weren't investigating the store owner, she threatened his lawyers, saying that if he contacted her daughter again, she would take care of it herself. And at one point, she even went to his house and kicked in the door. And although nothing came from this initially, the store's owner would come up again later in the story. And despite his nickname, he's a very dangerous man, and the judge knew it. But despite the danger, the judge insisted that she was more afraid of the Las Vegas police.
The problem is I don't think we're in danger from the pimps anymore. I'm more afraid of the Vice detectives and those who are trying to cover this up.
But a year after her daughter started working at the shop in August 2016, 21-year-old Sydney Land was working at a restaurant inside of Caesar's Palace when she moved out of her parents' house and into an apartment with her boyfriend, 20-year-old Nehemiah or Neo Kaufman in Spring Valley, an area about 20 minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. And the first of many suspicious incidents was the presence of Frankie's appeal. Frankie had a long rap sheet of petty crimes, but notably, not only was she a convicted prostitute, but she was also the stepdaughter of a Las Vegas police officer, and her sister Ariane was in the same line of work, adding credibility to the judge's claim about traffickers targeting daughters of law enforcement officers. Now, Frankie and a man named Dominique, who may or may not have been her pimp or boyfriend, were at the couple's house on the night of October 25th. But unfortunately, they would be the last people to see Neo and Sydney alive. Police will state that at some point after Frankie left, someone would execute Neo and Sydney, and today, the case remains unsolved. Now, it's been determined that the couple must have known the assailant because there was no sign of forced entry, and Ariane even insisted that her sister Frankie may have unknowingly let the killer into the apartment. But immediately, the police named Shane Valentine, the store owner Judge Melanie was suspicious of, as a person of interest. Not only was he an associate of the couple, but just weeks before their murder, Shane had also threatened to kill Neo, Sydney, and Frankie while they were in the parking garage of the Red Rock Casino. And this was apparently over something that Valentine wanted Neo to give back. But the same day he threatened him, Shane was also accused of shooting into the residence of Neo's mother. Now, the police allege that Valentine is an associate of Molly Mall, a music producer associated with many big names in hip-hop, and he even got a shout-out from Drake back in the day. But he was also convicted of being a sex trafficking kingpin by the FBI. And despite being a person of interest, Shane Valentine was never charged. So what was going on with Sydney and her boyfriend? And why were they hanging out with known pimps and prostitutes? Well, Sydney's parents were surprised when she moved into an apartment with Neo, and even more surprised that they were able to afford it, and they suspected that something was going on with Neo. I learned that Frankie accused Neo and Shane of being involved in some type of illegal activity together, and apparently it was a gun that Shane had threatened them over at the Red Rock Casino. But strangely, Frankie said that when Shane called Sydney's phone looking for Neo, she pretended to be Sydney and started disrespecting Shane. But soon after, she told him who she was, but at that point, it didn't seem like Shane cared. And that same day, when he allegedly shot up the house of Neo's mother, the police failed to recover any bullets. And a few days later, Sydney's mom recalled her crying and telling her that something was really bad. But she never told her mom what she was talking about. Now, even today, there is still confusion about whether Sydney herself was involved in prostitution. But Frankie claims that even though Neo used to be a good kid, he was now involved in pimping, and Sydney's sister even said he was controlling. And after years of no clear answer, Sydney's mom died mysteriously at her home in 2022. And I only say mysteriously because a year after that, in 2023, Judge Melanie was found dead in her home as well. And despite both reports saying that the women did this to themselves, Judge Melanie, before her death, heavily asserted that she was being followed and that if she ever came up dead, she didn't do it to herself. And Metro Police even went on to state that Shane was not even a suspect. So were the police covering for Shane? And/or covering up the murders of Judge Melanie and Connie Land? Or did Shane's criminal history and threats he made distract the police from finding out what really happened? Well, unfortunately, all of that remains unclear. But mysterious crime is just a fact of life in Nevada. Despite not even being in the top 20 for population, the state has a higher ratio of missing people than California. And that's partially because both residents and visitors go missing here. But among major cities, Las Vegas ranks very high.
Bro, I just told y'all, bro. I know somebody who was on the strip, Pauline, and randomly almost got abducted, gang. It's going on out here, folks. This is the perfect place. Alcohol 24 hours. Motherfucker, slip something right in your drink, boy.
Homicide clearance, with nearly 93% of murders being solved in 2020, just 4 years after Sydney and Neo's death. But I guess that doesn't mean that the police don't turn a blind eye to sex trafficking. And a lot of signs point to the double murder and the deaths of Connie Land and Judge Melanie as being connected to the sex trade. And although at the time of Sydney and Neo's case, California was #1 in human trafficking cases, per capita, sex trafficking in Nevada was above the national average. But for years, members of the Vice Unit have been accused of engaging in prostitution and working with pimps. And a resident of Nevada making a claim like this wouldn't be that far-fetched. But these accusations being supported by a judge and the FBI, among many other reasons, should serve as a warning for anyone living or traveling to Las Vegas to engage in such a thing. Because if something happens to you, you can't really expect justice to be served. As you can see, a case of 2 women trying to get justice for 2 murders only ended in 4 deaths. And unfortunately, the families of Judge Melanie, Nehemiah Kaufman, and Sydney Land will probably never have closure. But Sydney's mother stated that since the city is so small, there are likely many people who know the truth and what happened. But rest in peace to everyone mentioned in this video. And I know someone watching this video will say that I just ruined their upcoming trip to Las Vegas, but that's okay, because I also have an upcoming trip to Las Vegas. But thank you guys for watching as always. I appreciate your love and support. And if you have any strange Las Vegas or Nevada stories for me, just drop them in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Bro, I got a lot of Las Vegas stories for you, man. I ain't gonna hold you. I used to be out there, boy. I used to be out there on that strip 24/7, boy. I'm trying to tell you, folks. Put that behind me, though, gang. Hey, but you already know I'm out of here, man. Shit. Got a nigga Reminiscing, boy. Fuck. I'm out of here. Thank you for tuning in, man.